Howdy y'all, it is Cody from the Keepers of Nerddom. Welcome back to Heroclix Collection Part 2. We're going to be going through the next sections of this. We got up to Scarlet Witch last time, a very old piece. And now we are going to get into the next sections of this. We'll go all the way up to Captain Marvel. Let's get into it. We're going to look at Jarvis. Okay, so he has the Avengers keyword and Soldier was his keywords there. Let's find our Jarvis. This is the collection, and this is actually one of the hardest boxes I've ever had to put together because it's like 50 points and under Avengers, and because point values started dropping like crazy over time, the pieces became easier and easier to fit into this box. And so at one point it was 75 points, and then as I collected things, it became crazy full. All right, so top click is 9 attack with 1 damage. Jarvis is not going to be your damage piece, but it's really what he does separate. Jarvis counts as 3 characters for determining how many ID cards can be added to your force. You don't pay the cost for up to 3 ID cards added to your force. Your opponent scores these ID cards normally. ID cards were a game mechanic that would allow you to call in an Avenger for a turn to do an action, and then he would disappear, or she, right? And Jarvis is, it's like he's cleaning the mansion, right? And just a beautiful piece for a figure that's just standing there, but because of Iron Man's helmet and Thor's hammer and Cap's shield, it's just fun. It's just a neat little piece. He does have stealth top dial, which helps a lot, but also because his thing is there's still more Avengers here. I tidied up. Friendly characters can use improved movement, ignoring hindering, because that was the thing back in the 15th anniversary edition when we still play, and improved targeting through hindering, but only if they occupy indoor terrain. Now, the weird exception to that is if you play on an indoor-outdoor map, if they're still indoors, they can see into hindering terrain as long as they're occupying the indoor terrain. Kind of interesting little way to cheat the system, kind of interesting, right? Later on, he'll get willpower. He has perplex, and then later start tech enhancement. So he's got stuff from Tony, which makes sense because he's Tony's butler anyway. The heart of the Avengers, though, is where Jarvis really shines for these 40 points. When Jarvis is adjacent to a friendly character with the Avengers keyword, reduce all damage dealt to him to 1. So he can just tank shots. If Jarvis has taken damage from an opposing character since the beginning of your last turn, he ignores all damage dealt by opposing characters. This power can't be countered. You can't turn it off without wit. For a support piece, just for this, and I tidied up, even if you're not playing with the ID cards, he's just an amazing piece because he's also going to perplex up stats, and the stealth makes him harder to hit anyway. His stats are terrible, but it doesn't really matter when your first 3 clicks are literally, this is not 4 clicks as far as you're going to take 3 damage, 1, 2, 3, and go down here. No. You're going to take 3 damage and go, oop, done. Only 1 click because of his ability, as long as he's adjacent to an Avenger, which you should always be. All right. Amazing figure. Fantastic. Lots of fun. Gotta love Jarvis. All right. We get to one of my favorite other types of pieces we showed in the last video, the AIM Red Squad and AIM Blue Squad. And once again, we have a very small pointed piece with a very small dial. 4 clicks. I think 3 were the other ones. So he's worth a little bit more points, so he gets a little bit more here. You see, he starts with prod control and then enhancement and then empower. So he can, with enhancement, help the range damage. Empower can do the close combat damage of adjacent friendlies. But here's what he has for his trait, leadership. If AIM Blue is part of an AIM theme team, friendly characters with the AIM keyword consider other friendly characters within 3 squares and line of fire to be adjacent while using enhancement, empower, leadership, or support. He's definitely the weakest of them in a way, but he has prob control. You could use these guys for theme team probs because they do have AIM, Avengers, and Hydra as their name keywords. This is where it gets just interesting because then they can boost all your grouping from 3 squares out instead of, as long as they can see that character, instead of having to be adjacent all the time. Pretty crazy because enhancement, empower, leadership, support. He starts with leadership. The support is on, I think, some of the other ones. Enhancement he gets later, but the empower It's one of these things. Let's just go back for just a second. It's easier to just talk through it when we look at AIM Red Squad. There's AIM Red Squad. What do they start with? They start with nothing on the dial because they have Empower or Enhancement here. So then they could get it out 3 squares. And then the AIM White Squad has Outwit or Perplex, which doesn't really matter here. But second click in, they start doing support. And defend. So they could use the support on something that's not adjacent, but if they wanted the defend stat, they'd have to be adjacent. AIM Blue Squad is probably in ways the weakest of the 3 because of he's more expensive, but he does have prob. But you can always theme team prob with the other ones because they're just going to be carried usually anyway by like an Iron Man or Thor. That's what they're good for. All right, here it is. Swordsman. This is one of these pieces that I always enjoy playing, not because he's good, but because he's just fun. Swordsman is he's a mess, is what he is. And of course, then he's buried in this box like crazy because that's how this box works. It likes to just hide pieces for the next 37 years because all of a sudden they're now hidden underneath. There he is. Good grief. So Swordsman is, it's a cool sculpt for, these are going to be the more basic sculpts more often than not when they're at these low points because they're usually low cost and therefore low rarity, just to get you a team that you could build out of a random pack. So what's he got? 5 clicks for 40 points. Sorry. I was trying to say the 40. Not bad. I love the cover, the comic book cover arts. It's always fun. 5 clicks, and you'll notice that's Blades, Claws, Fangs. So even though he's rocking 1 damage, this guy can hit for 6 damage. Could be 1, could be 6, could be somewhere in the middle. So he's one of those pieces that can do a lot more than he looks like he can do. But he has parry. When an swordsman or an adjacent friendly character would be hit by an opposing character, you can use Blades, Claws, Fangs, roll 2d6s. If your roll is equal or higher than the attack roll, the attack is evaded. All right. And it's for him and possibly, or an adjacent friendly character. So you run him up right into somebody's face that uses Blades, Claws, Fangs. And it's just that they can use, not that they are using it. Very interesting. He's not great, but he's kind of just one of those one-trick pony type pieces. Kind of fun. Nothing too crazy. Yeah. All right. We have a limited edition piece in Dr. Voodoo. Dr. Voodoo is 40 points of epicness. There he is, and he is missing his hand. It broke off in the box. Awesome. So let's look at the piece and what it's supposed to look like, but his arm broke off. This box, unfortunately, has too much stuff in it. I'll be gluing that on here shortly. A beautiful piece, actually, that's re-sculpted from an older figure from the Amazing Spider-Man set, and this was a promo kit later on. Very neat, very cool. Dr. Voodoo, he's Avengers and Mystical. He can use prob control and the Mystic's team ability, so he will deal a penetrating damage to anybody that hits him. And that's even if he gets KO'd, if memory serves. Pretty awesome. And again, it's only 4 clicks, but the top dial is prob and mystics with 17 defense with energy shield deflection. He has terrible stats. What he is here for as 40 points is the support piece, and he is a beautiful support piece at that. Pretty awesome indeed. Now we come to a character that I have owned for many years and can't hardly stand her in a way. I had to print the card actually to get the card for her because I traded for her years and years ago. And quite frankly, she's not good. She never was good. But she was one of those pieces that just really was a fun piece to have. And you can tell her weapon is kind of bent, the plastic. We'll go through it. She's a 40-point piece with a silver ring. You can only ever have one of her, which normally I will only ever play a character, one of them in a team, unless I'm just being silly, or they could have copies like an Iron Man armor suit that's just remote controlled, right? Or drones or something, stuff like that. New Avengers coordinator. So she has Avengers Hammer and Shield. Victoria Hand and adjacent friendly characters with the Avengers keyword modify their attack values by +1 if they are on their first click. So only if they're on their first click does she get +1 attack. So she's actually rocking a 10 attack at top dial. But she's got a pretty terrible stat line. Stealth, Pin Psychic later, range combat expert, trader or not. Give her a power action. If she began the game on your force, she becomes friendly to an opponent's force. At the beginning of each of that opponent's turns, that player deals 1 unavoidable damage to another character friendly to Victoria hand. And that's all of her dial. Man, this tape was terrible. World's Most Wanted. Those are such good comic book. I need to reread those. So she's one of these things that if she does get hurt and you get lucky enough to get her on there, the range combat expert's nice, and later on she gets pretty strong, actually, and that's the problem. She could actually be pretty devastating because she'd have a 10 attack with Pen Psychic to go through defenses, but you could give her to your opponent for those last 2 clicks, and ironically, I think it was a power action. Yep, power action. So she'd have to push or already be pushed. It would be the best thing to do is like if she had an action token already right here and push her to go to there. So her damage goes down, her attack goes down. She's pretty well useless as far as doing a lot of damage because right here is dangerous a little bit with 6 range. But she's going to start dealing 1 unavoidable damage to the opponent team. Pretty awesome, pretty powerful, really amazing stuff there. I like her. She's one of those that she's not great, but she's a fun thing. Also, she does have the shield team ability, which... But yeah, she's... Victoria Hand's just one of those pieces that's just kind of more fun than anything, and most people, they're not going to end up having to deal with her, but she's just fun. Here's another card that I had to print off of the print and play stuff. Nick Fury from the Avengers. This is actually from Age of Ultron, I believe. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, you can kind of see the set symbol up there. It's all jankety. If Nick Fury is a part of an Avengers themed team, which is his only keyword, and has the lowest point value character on your starting force, he can use leadership. And I think it's supposed to say, and is the lowest point value character on your starting force. He can use leadership and outwit. When he uses leadership, he's considered 300 points. It used to be leadership that you could only use it for things lower than you. And he's 45 points. We'll look at that in a second. I recognize the council's made a decision. When an opponent makes a choice from an Avengers Assemble trait, you may roll a d6. On a result of 5 or 6, change the effect to the other option. His whole concept was each of the things from the Civil War or the Age of Ultron main set for the movie was that they had a trait thing that when they dealt damage, your opponent chose an option from one of the 2, and then that's what happened. And so he could actually change it to the thing that they didn't want. Pretty fun. And I think, is it a May? I think it is. Yeah, you may roll a d6. If you like the thing, okay, cool. And that's on his card the entire time, 45 points. He has shape change. He has willpower, so he can act twice without hurting himself, not in the same turn, but back-to-back turns until the very last click, and he has stealth. He's designed not for your main damage, although he has a 10 attack with 3 damage, plus the Avengers Initiative, meaning he can move through hindering up there and can see through it as well. He's pretty solid, honestly, for a supportive piece that I wanted him just to have that occasionally when I do play the ones with the Avengers Assemble trait. It's just fun. It's a neat little trick. It's not good, but it's neat. All right. Next thing, Tony Stark. This is from the Iron Man 3 set. He is an old piece, and I apologize, I hit the thing. And this is one of those pieces in its time when it came out for 50 points. It was one of the most bonkers support pieces ever. The Avengers Initiative, so it could see through hindering. Upgraded armors. He has Avengers and the Stark Industries keyword. He started seeing the Stark Industries, I think, in this set, and then the Invincible Iron Man set for comic book stuff came out the same year, and Stark Industries became a keyword you could actually play, which is fun. So I have Tony Stark's in both my Stark Industries and Avengers groups, but upgraded armors when when Tony Stark hits 1 or more opposing characters after actions resolved, place a promotion token on his character card. You may then roll a d6 that can't be rolled and add 1 for each promotion token on his character card. On a result of 8 or higher, you may place this character with any character with this trait and a point value of 75 points or less. The same number of clicks from its starting line. This was the Iron Man Mark 7 from the Iron Man 3 set, was the only one I think that had this as well at all, and I think it even had a typo in it, but it was a funny thing just to be able to do eventually, that you could make this support piece that was mostly just harassment all of a sudden become an Iron Man suit, because it's the spot in Iron Man 3 whenever he's tied up against the bed with the bed springs and stuff and trying to get the Mark 42 to actually come to him. And I want to say it's the Mark 7 that's from that main set. I think so, because the Mark 42's never had the ability, ironically. But the real big thing that's really crazy is his special damage power down here, enhancement and outwit. So he could outwit powers and see-through hindering, which made him really valuable. And the enhancement meant he could plus up damage for adjacent friendly characters for range. So he had all these things, plus willpower, the energy explosion, whatever. Not a big deal. 6 range was awesome, especially for a support piece. Plus, it's just a really cool sculpt for how simple it is, and he's got that Mark 42 stuff somewhat on him, and it's that part of that scene when he's tied up and finally gets some of the suit on him. And so the willpower, his stats are pretty terrible, and on click 3 he goes down to just enhancement, and then click 4 is outwit. Only 4 clicks, but at the time, for just a little common support piece, he could turn off powers and see through the hindering, so he could get to things that we're trying to hide. Fantastic little piece, and then occasionally, if you were winning, you could upgrade him into an Iron Man, and it was kind of fun. All right, now we come to one of the more interesting things, shifting focus. They are pieces that try to do 2 different things, but they are the same character. It is Wasp. These are a lot of fun, actually. I kind of like playing. This is one of the few times that I'll do it occasionally as like a full Wasp team, only I don't like, again, playing all the same character because it doesn't make sense unless there's like a justification, like a suit of Iron Man armor or something. But in this case, it's more just funny just to have this picture of just lots and lots of little tiny characters attacking the enemy army. It's just funny. That's all it's good for. So let's go through each one. This is Wasp. They're both 40 points. Time for a costume changes her swap ability, right? And so she can get a free action if she begin her turn on the map, replace her with another character with a trait on the same click number. It's just these 2. That's it. And it's great. Fantastic. Okay, 40 points for a little 4-dial click. If you'll notice, this is support Wasp with really high defenses. That's a 19 with super senses. On a 5 and 6, you don't get hit. Only 1 damage, but the reality is tiny size at range, she's also +1 to her defense. So she's rocking a 20, and if she was in hindering and they don't see through hindering, 21. Insanity. But also, she has running shot with only 5 range and only 3 movement. But it's a 10 attack, not great, but it's incapacitate, which 2 lightning bolts, you can have 2 targets and incapacitate them, give them an action token. She's a support piece in this way. The other side is a little different. Wasp can use leadership as if she were 100 points. When she doesn't succeed, adds 2 to your actions. Add 2 actions to your action total instead of 1. The 100-point leadership doesn't matter anymore because even by 15th anniversary, they changed leadership that if you were named theme team and you did leadership, it didn't matter what point value you were, which is really interesting and kind of got a little out of hand. But she is the more attacking. So her defense is lower, but she has energy shield deflection. So actually, she's still rocking a 20 at range because of the energy shield deflection. If she gets up close to her, it's easier to hit her than the other one. But she has Pen Psychic, and in this case, she actually has sidestep, so 2 free spaces of movement instead of running shot, which it's 2 instead of 3 with the same range. And that's the fun about these pieces is they were good for different things slightly, but either one of them was amazing. And just having them as both options was a fantastic, cool thing, and it's just a costume swap. They're just slightly different paint jobs. And they're pretty. They're just fun. And especially for a common and uncommon piece, great, great pieces. All right. Another piece that I don't really like to play very often, but Tigra, they're just kind of there. But these are the types of pieces that I would keep on hand, so that way I can play something that's kind of lame when somebody wants to try Heroclix, and I can have fun and just try the challenge of playing with pieces that aren't that good. But yeah, Tigra is a neat little piece for what she is, but she starts with stealth, so she doesn't have move and attack, and Tigra is, you'd think of her as an attacker, but she does have Blade's Claw's Fangs, so she could hit for 6 damage. So let's look it up. Here she is, Tigra. When she attacks only characters 100 points or more, you may choose to modify attacker damage +1, so she could have an 11 attack or 3 damage if you didn't want to roll the blades. And she does have Leap Climb as a trait. So she actually has this built in. So when she uses it, resolutions, roll a d6. If the result is equal to or higher than the number of squares moved, she may get given a close action at no cost. So she could actually move an attack, but it's random. And for 45 points, she's not bad, especially if you get down to the 3rd click with Flurry and then combat reflexes and stuff in close combat. She's just going to be hard to hit. That'd be a 19 defense. Pretty cool. And with the change to Avengers, +1 attack if you're targeting team ability you chose at the beginning of the game. She's interesting. it's one of those things. Could you move 6 and still possibly attack? Well, you could. The roll's got to be really, really good, though. That's the problem. All right. 2 last Heroclix we'll go through in this video. Sharon Carter. She's another Silver Ring character. Avengers and Shield. Sharon Carter and adjacent friendly characters with the Avengers keyword can use stealth. That's why she exists in my collection. 45 points. The Shield thing makes adjacent friendlies get +1 to their range, and then you can give her a power action to +1 damage someone for a ranged attack. Pretty cool. It's literally, though, for this. This is why you really play her. The +1 range helps, but this is so big that she can make things that don't have stealth just all of a sudden show up, and she has stealth built in all the time. Okay, so she's a very vanilla dial, actually. Willpower is the only power showing here, but keep in mind, she has stealth traded the entire time. Then Perplex on second click. Willpower, though, shows up throughout, and then she goes back up on attack. Combat reflexes, the range combat expert, so she has options to do things. And the paint job's kind of rough on her face, but otherwise good. 5 clicks, obviously, she's an older piece with that 8 attack is getting pretty low. But yeah, she is a support piece that gives you stealth. Handy, handy, handy. Fun collection piece. This was from the Avengers Infinity set, I believe, and it's Captain Marvel with the short haircut, so she looks odd, and it's just a standing sculpt. But I have a couple copies of her, actually, at least 2 in here at this point, because she is pretty impressive for what she is. She starts the game if you pay an extra 5 points with the reality gem equipped, and I can't remember what that gives her because I don't ever use it on her because you don't really want to use it on a 45-point piece. She is a tertiary attacker at most, and that's fine. That's what she's good for. She has hypersonic speed to start off with impervious, so you get to roll, you always reduce damage by 2, and then you can roll a d6. On a 5 or 6, you take no damage as long as it's not penetrating. She only has 17, so it's not high, but still, impervious on a 45-point piece with hypersonic with 6 range and precision strike. You can make super senses not as often workable. Pretty awesome. And then if she does get hit to the next click or 2, she can get precision strike on click 2 with ranged combat expert, so she can up her stats on attack, damage, or one of each. Pretty interesting little piece for harassment. I have used her quite effectively. Again, the Avengers team ability just makes it more usable and playable, because it used to be just like +1 to your speed, and you're like, great. Which for her, I think it was only +1 to your speed if you were just doing a move action, though. And hypersonic speed is a power action, not a move action. So kind of weird, kind of interesting, but she herself was, for a common, fantastic piece. You know what? Let's do a bonus one to finish out this video. We are going to look at one of my, and I had these all ready to go except for this one because I wasn't planning on talking about it, a Black Panther. Yep, this is the one. And this is a beautiful sculpt. This is from, I believe, a starter set, actually. That's why the sculpt's a little bit more dynamic with the cape and the gold on him. Just really cool. Yeah, this is an Infinity set as well of some sort. I can't remember some of these names of these sets. He's Avengers, Wakanda, Warrior. He ignores hindering for movement all the time. Keep it moving Avengers. Once per turn, when a friendly character with the Avengers keyword hits an opposing character after resolutions, you may move Black Panther up to 2 squares. I think all these starter set pieces had this ability. So if any of them hit, all of a sudden everybody's moving, and it gets kind of wild how fast they can go. And he does have a special ability of stealth and sidestep at some point. He's kind of slow. But for 50 points, stealth and sidestep, granted, you might just run him up just to be able to use the outwit. Pretty handy little guy to use. And Black Panther became one of those Heroclix in my collection that often I would go to for, I need a support piece that's also a good attacker, and often it's Black Panther, and he's a blast to play. He really is. He is nasty. Because Black Panthers tend to, not all of them, but a lot of them tend to just be, oh, not a big deal until all of a sudden the person gets hit by a Black Panther and they go, wait, what's happening? And you go, yeah, I'm outwitting your stuff and I'm making sure my other people attack. Oh, and then I'm charging you or sidestepping in and attacking with Black Panther as well. With blades, right? That's the reality. This Black Panther could get you for 6 damage. Not always, but it's funny to do. Pretty neat little thing. And it's almost cut off on the wrong too far. So yeah, there's a few more to the collection. We'll just keep moving in these videos. It's just fun to talk through. What's the collection look like? These Avengers pieces. It's fun to have, you know, are they all of use? No, this Tigra is pretty terrible. But is it fun to have? Well, yeah, absolutely, because I can play different types of games. I can play a game with Swordsman and Tigra for somebody that wants to learn the game, and I use pretty terrible stuff and warn them, okay, if I get in close, here's what's going to happen. Or I can play Sharon Carter type pieces to make sure I have stealth on everybody, and you can't hit me at range unless you do see through hindering. Good luck, bye-bye, right? It's that reality, and that's what's fun about Heroclix, and also our point value drops that we showed in our last video, but we'll just give you, here's what we typically play for our rules. Just, you can pause it there, and also here is our point value drops that we typically do. Feel free to copy this. We do this so that way all of our older pieces are still viable and feel like they're not just being outpowered by newer stuff. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Like, share, and subscribe. I've been Cody from the Keepers Nerdin. Take care, y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.